Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Sunny Vanderstar. Today's topic is creating a wildlife photography workflow, and it will be presented by our fabulous NatHab expedition leader, Aditya Panda. Aditya, thank you so much for being here today and for bringing us more of your fabulous expertise in photography. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Thank you, Sunny. Hello, everyone. I hope you've been doing well, having a nice week. I was just telling Sunny before I signed in that if any of you think today's topic is not the most exciting, then you're not alone. But it is an important topic, and it is crucial to the success of photography and the safety of the pictures we gather on our trips. But before we dive into the topic, let me introduce myself again for those of you who are tuning into one of my webinars for the first time, or those of you who haven't had a chance to travel with me. My name is Aditya Panda, and I have been leading NatHab expeditions in India since 2016. I primarily lead what we call our tiger trips, which are the Grand India Wildlife Adventure, India Tiger Quest, and India Tiger Safari, which is a photo pro expedition. When I'm not leading NatHab expeditions, I'm based in Eastern India, Eastern Central India, in a state called Orissa, which is my home state and where I am involved in the conservation of tiger and elephant landscapes. So, over to our topic. You see, everybody's needs and organizational methods are different, and there are as many ways to organize things as there are people. With wildlife photography, we tend to shoot a lot. We tend to shoot in bursts because that's what gets us to capture action, and we come back to camp wherever we are from our daily excursions, be it game drives or hikes or walks. We come back with a lot of pictures, and often we find, at least I have found in the case of a lot of my guests, that some haven't actually fathomed the amount of pictures that they would be taking, so they frequently fall short of memory cards. And those who travel with a lot of memory cards, as all of us should, often find it very imposing, very intimidating to manage all those thousands and thousands of pictures that we take every single day on these trips. And downloading them, going through hundreds of pictures, which look, you could have a series of 200 pictures of a kingfisher perched absolutely stationary on a single perch. And it becomes very difficult to pick which one you like. And when you end up with folders full of pictures like that, a lot of times, that intimidation of just the volume of pictures that you have to deal with can lead us to procrastinate about actually working on them, processing them, and showcasing the best of our trips. So a lot of people find that difficult. A lot of people end up forgetting a lot of folders that just pile up on hard drives and are forgotten. And there might be some amazing pictures hidden in there, which is just too tedious for most people to dig in and find. And I'm equally guilty of that. As an expedition leader, I lead trips mostly back to back through the season, and between trips there is not a lot of time, and whatever time there is goes in rest. And what we end up doing is that from every trip we end up working on 10 or 20 pictures, which really stand out, and end up forgetting the rest. So here, as serious photographers or as serious amateurs or semi-professionals, whatever you choose to call ourselves, it's very important to have an organized workflow. An organized workflow will help us not only be more efficient with our data, with our pictures, but it will also help us keep our pictures safe. It will help us find our pictures, which is most important. One needs to be able to go back to a certain trip done maybe a few years ago, find the exact folder and find the exact pictures that one's looking for without having to go through thousands and thousands of files. Having an organized workflow, of course, also prevents unpleasant surprises on the shoots. Imagine having forgotten to download your pictures the previous night and being at an fabulous sighting today and finding midway through your shoot that you don't have space on your camera's memory card. So to deal with all of this, to make us more efficient and more organized as photographers, it is useful to develop and master an efficient and simple workflow. I'll be suggesting several things on today's webinar, but you don't have to do things exactly like that. Everybody has their own workflow. We all have our own ways of packing our suitcases. We have our own ways of doing things. So I'll talk about the things that one needs to keep in mind. I'll talk about the things that work for me, and you're free to pick and choose and develop your own working style, your own workflow to make things easier and safer and more efficient for your photography. The basics of any photographer's, any wildlife photographer's workflow include, of course, after the shoot, you download your pictures, copy them onto a hard drive, and ideally you should be backing them up on a second hard drive. After that, either while on the trip if you find the time, or after you go back home, you sort through these pictures, you pick and choose the best, and then you start importing them onto a photo processing software of your choice, and you work on those pictures. You get into your digital darkroom and get the best out of those pictures, and then you export them to be able to showcase them to the world. And these pictures that you have worked on, these pictures that you've processed, as a lot of you will know, are works of art. They're not the same as the original files. The original files are valuable in themselves, but a processed picture is even more valuable because very important processes have gone into that, and very fine work has been done on them to get the best out of them. So those files really need to be safeguarded properly. So exporting and saving are as important as downloading and backing up. Now, there are many ways to download from a camera. These days, you can even do it wirelessly. In many cases, you can download pictures onto your iPad or your iPhone or any phone for that matter, without ever having to connect your camera with a cable. But I find while downloading pictures, the most no-nonsense, safe, simple, and efficient way to download pictures is to use a card reader like this one, and plug it into a laptop, plug your card into it, and copy straight from it. Of course, you can do without a card reader. You can connect your camera directly to your laptop, but I have often had issues with the laptop not detecting the camera and things like that. So I just find a good old-fashioned USB card reader to be very, very efficient. Once you plug your card reader into your computer, it's not just a simple matter of copying and pasting. Of course, you could do that, but then eventually you would end up with a hard drive that could be nicknamed chaos, because you will have so many files and so many folders that you will not know where to find what you're looking for. So what I do is I make folders which carry the name of a trip or the destination that I've traveled to. The folders also usually carry the date to give me a sort of vague idea of when that trip had happened and which period of time I'm looking into when I'm looking for a folder. And then every single year, I put all the folders from that year together in a bigger folder that's just named after the year. So if I, on the screenshot that you see from my computer, if you went back one page, you'd find 2015, 2016, 2017, folders for every single year. So that really makes my life easier. At least I know which year to go into when I'm looking for a certain picture. And what I also do is I make sure that on my computer, my folders are arranged automatically. Either, you can choose either an alphabetical order, or in my case, I choose to have them arranged by date, so that I know where to look for them. But simply downloading, copying and downloading onto a folder and organizing your folders very neatly with proper file names and proper dates is not enough by itself. There's a saying among photographers when it comes to storing your files, storing your pictures, that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I'm sure all of us, a lot of us, certainly me, have faced this disaster or disappointment of having a hard drive full of pictures, full of invaluable data, simply crashing, just deciding to crash one day and not being detected by your computer, and then just, at worst you could lose that data forever. But in my case, at least, I managed to recover those files using software and a tech geek who was willing to help me. But then by the time I recovered the files, all the file names had been changed, even the file formats had been changed. So it was a real pain. This had happened, I think, about 10 years ago. And even now, I take time out, go back into that hard drive and try fixing those file names in order to be able to recover and see those files. So it's a big pain, and it's a pain that can be avoided quite simply with a little bit of discipline and a little bit of precaution. And that precaution is called backup. You have to back up your pictures. Technology has grown by leaps and bounds. The hard drives that we have today are very, very reliable. And yes, in case they fail, there are recovery softwares, things like that. But why take the chance? Why not just copy everything, duplicate it onto two different hard drives. At the same time, it is important to label your hard drives properly, because your hard drives are practically your archives, and you need to know where what is. And it is best to do it as soon as you can after a shoot, because there are any number of things that could affect the safety of the pictures in your camera's memory card. Memory cards can also crash without warning, and for any number of reasons. You do not want that to happen. Typically, what I do, there are two different kinds of hard drives that are available to us these days, and I'll go into the differences between the two. But what I typically do is while I'm traveling, I carry what you call a solid state drive, which is a lot smaller than your regular hard drive, and a lot safer. It's practically like a very large SD card. And I carry the solid state drive with me. I copy my folders onto it while I'm traveling. And when I need to work on my pictures, I plug in the solid state drive to my computer, because it's also much faster. So I do not have to copy the actual files onto my computer. I can work straight from, I can dive into the folders through Lightroom directly and work on them, rather than having to copy entire folders onto my computer. If I did that on the old-fashioned hard disk drives, then the whole process would be a lot slower. Hard disk drives are very slow, although they are great for using as archival storage. So at home, I have all my main data backed up on duplicate hard disk drives, but while traveling, I use a solid state drive. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But even before you start downloading onto your hard drives, it is possible to start backing up your pictures, to start having multiple copies, duplicate copies right from your camera. These days, a lot of the cameras have dual card slots. You can use them in various different ways. Some people prefer to record pictures onto one card and videos onto another. Some people like to record their raw pictures onto one card and the JPEGs onto another. But what I prefer to do is that I choose to make one card, the second card, simply mirror or copy the main card. That way, I have the exact same data saved on two different cards. And in case something happens to one card, for example, I'll tell you an accident that happened today. This little folder with a lot of my cards ended up in the washing machine and had to be rescued. I've been drying them up, and I hope they work. But even in the case they don't, everything has been backed up, so I won't lose anything besides the cards themselves. So you can start backing up straight from the camera by having multiple cards and selecting options to turn one into the backup card, so you have all your pictures written onto two different cards at the same time. Now, coming back to the two main kinds of hard disk drives that you have today, we have the good old-fashioned external hard drive, which I have here in my hand, which is huge. And you also have solid state drives, which are much smaller, much more compact. And as I said, they're literally like a very large SD card. The principal difference between the two is that an external hard disk drive has moving parts inside it. There's a disk that rotates. And when you have moving parts, they're always susceptible to damage from shock of any sort. We, carry a lot of stuff in our camera bags. Our camera bags get on airport conveyor belts. They get on airplane overhead bins. They get thrown around in the back of safari jeeps, and that is not where you want to have your external hard drive. Your external hard disk drive, or HDD as they're called, has a very high chance of failing under those circumstances. You don't want that to happen. Leave them at home. Keep them somewhere safe, like in the drawer of your desk or on your desk. Connect them to a computer at home and use them as archival backup. Don't move them around too much. But on a trip, you should use a solid state drive, because that is a lot more immune, almost entirely immune to shock, and much more compact, much safer to carry around on trips like ours. Solid state drives, of course, tend to be a lot more expensive, which is why it makes even more sense to have hard disk drives at home, multiple hard disk drives at home on which to store your pictures for posterity. Besides physical storage in hard drives with you, you can also upload your pictures onto the cloud. That is the safest place for our pictures to be. Choose a good cloud storage platform like Google or iCloud, or there are many. I'll also talk about Adobe Cloud and how I use it. And just upload your pictures there. You can also choose to automate that process, in the sense that as soon as you plug in your hard drive to your computer, as long as you're connected to the internet, the cloud will automatically back up that hard drive for you without you even trying. And in many cases, you will also be able to make changes. Whatever changes you make on your hard drive will also be mirrored or reflected automatically in the background in your cloud folder. So that is the safest place to store your pictures, and that's something that's going to be there forever. So as your third backup, cloud storage is highly recommended. Now, one of the biggest sort of discouragements, as I was mentioning earlier, to working on your pictures, or even looking at them or getting the best out of them, is the fact that we tend to shoot hundreds of pictures of the same thing, for as long as we get a chance, because with wildlife, one never knows when the animal might run away, whether under low light conditions or other challenging conditions, whether one has gotten a sharp picture or not. So with good reason, we use our 20 frames per second or 30 frames per second, or whatever it is that our cameras are capable of. We use that to take lots of pictures of the same subject. But that takes up a lot of storage. Besides, as I was saying, discouraging us from going through our pictures, it also takes up a lot of storage, and storage costs money and space. So one way to address that is, while the trip is still fresh in your mind, while you are still not bored of going through the same folder again and again, to try and make your pick. Okay, choose your pictures very carefully. Get the best of the best. If anything is blurry, anything is out of focus, for example, look at this somber deer hind in the beautiful twilight of sunset in these saccharum grass flowers. I've got a series of pictures of her, but I chose a picture which has her looking in such a way that her eye has a bit of catchlight. There's a beautiful back rim lighting around her face, and I found that picture and a few others to be keepers, while the rest of them really do not deserve space on my hard drive because they take up space unnecessarily, and they are pictures that I'll never be publishing. They are pictures that I'll never be exhibiting. They are pictures that, besides memory, have no other value as wildlife photographs. So over there, it becomes a little important to, um, get emotionally a little detached from those pictures and delete them and keep just the best of the best and just remove the rest. Of course, picture editing technology is progressing incredibly fast. You might feel that, I have a picture today which is substandard, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there might be a software that can turn this into a fabulous picture. It might fix the focus, it might, do all kinds of things, and I might be able to recover it. But, think frankly, if you have a better copy of that picture, is it even worth your time trying to fix that picture at some indeterminate date in the future? Does it deserve space on your hard drive? Think about it, and choose. And why do you choose pictures from a series of almost equally similar pictures? There are a few things that you can keep in mind. Of course, catch light in the eye, any sort of interesting lighting around the animal, any interesting behavior, or even a more engaging pose. These are all factors that you might look into while choosing your pick. Also look at composition, look at sharpness, and see which ones are worth keeping and which ones are not. Therefore, cull and clear ruthlessly. It's going to save you a lot of effort, a lot of space, a lot of money, and a lot of time when you go through your archives and look at your pictures and try to get back to a favorite picture, or if someone asks you for a certain picture to be able to find it, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, Lightroom again has various versions. It is, of course, probably the most popular application of choice for photographers to work on their pictures and to get the best out of their pictures. And every photographer will tell you a different way of using Lightroom, because it's an app. It's a fairly complicated app. And everybody has their own way of using it. I like to download my pictures onto a hard drive. When I am sorting through them, I like to do that on Finder or an app called Preview, which are all words that you're familiar with if you use Macintosh computers, Apple computers. And if you use Windows computers, you have other file viewing applications that you can use. But I prefer to go through my pictures on a file viewer app rather than importing entire folders into Lightroom and then going through them. I find that easier and just more convenient. Many photographers prefer to import entire folders straight from the camera into Lightroom, and then they like to go through their pictures on Lightroom. I am just used to doing it the other way around, so you are free to do it the way you want to. And to speak to you about how I organize my pictures into Lightroom and how I work on them, how I upload them onto Adobe Cloud, and how I export and save them for sharing them on any sort of media. In order to do that, I decided that it's best if I give you a live example. So I'm going to go out of the presentation and go into Lightroom right now, and I'll import a picture that I took a few days ago from my balcony of one of my most favorite birds. And I'm going to show you how I organize myself, my pictures on Lightroom. So here we are, that's Lightroom. And I'll go into add photos and into my hard drive. All right, let me first show you, before I go into Lightroom, let me first show you how I look at my pictures on Finder and sort through them. So this is the folder. Now, if you use Finder on Mac, there are various ways to view your files on it. For example, right now they're in a gallery thumbnail sort of format, but I can also choose to view them as icons or lists in this sort of film strip format, which is much nicer. There you go. You see, since I'm doing this from a hard disk drive, it's taking a little while to load. There. This bird here is called the Alexandrine parakeet or large Indian parakeet, and they're the largest parakeets that we find in India. And I had a flock of about 25 or 30 of them a couple of evenings ago come and perch on this teak tree right outside my balcony. The teak tree is a forest tree, and it's fruiting right now, and parakeets just love the fruit. And as you can see, there are a lot of pictures that I took. I've of course done a bit of culling, but to choose the best among them, let's look at this one, this parakeet. It's got a nice clear background, so we'll choose one of these pictures to work on, but let's see the one where it looks its best. I like the composition here, and I also like the fact that we can see more of the parakeet's face here. This is a male. He's got a nice rose and black ring around his neck. This is that's blurry. Okay, this one looks sharp and nice. Let's work on this one. So as I click on this picture, it's automatically going to open in Lightroom because that's been set as the default app for raw pictures on my computer. But just to show you how it's done, normally you can import through Lightroom like this by going into the folder, and let's see what the file number was. This was 3118. Okay, there it is. Review for import, yes. And I add the photo. Now let's quickly work on it. Start by cropping it. Straighten it a bit. And close in a little bit on it. I'll place the parakeet's eye on the rule of thirds confluence there, and that looks good. Okay, let's pull down highlights. 75 looks good. It was quite late in the evening, so the picture has a fair amount of noise in it. But we can get a lot of that detail out and use a noise reducing software. Leave the white balance as it is. Improve vibrance a little bit. And saturation. Add some vignetting. Sharpness. Always remember to do a little bit of masking while you are increasing sharpness. Enable lens correction. And then I'll reduce the vignetting a bit. Yeah. And I've mentioned this to you earlier. There's this beautiful AI-based denoise button that Lightroom has, that Adobe has added to Lightroom, and it works like magic. But it takes up a lot of processing power, and I'm afraid if I click that now, it might actually mess up with the webinar. So I'm not going to do that now, but this is 99% of the work done on this picture. I just need to denoise it, and it does a really good job of removing the noise from the pictures, but I'll not denoise for now. What I'll show you is how I archive these pictures. Now, I can add some keywords to the picture. So I'll add Alexandrine parakeet teak hole. So those are my keywords. Whenever I need to find this picture, I can always just Google, or just look for those keywords here, and it'll take me to the picture. And you see, I only add the best of my best pictures, only the selects into Lightroom. I import very little into Lightroom. I don't import all my pictures, all my folders onto Lightroom. And there are two reasons why I do that. Number one is it's just simpler for me. Number two is, if you look here, there's a little cloud symbol on the right-hand top corner of the Lightroom interface. And look at that. I have 1 TB of space on my Lightroom cloud, and I have only used 99.4 GB of it, despite having so many years of photography on my Lightroom software and on my Lightroom cloud. If I imported entire folders, it would finish up this space in no time. And I see no reason for importing entire folders, because I only work on the best of the best. And going back to the topic of ruthlessly culling and clearing your folders of less than awesome pictures, let me tell you that on average, most wildlife photographers end up deleting between 80 to 90% of the pictures they take. In my case, I probably end up deleting 95% of the pictures I take, and I keep only the best of them in folders on my hard drive. And from that 5% that I keep, only 1 or 2 pictures of each set make it to my Lightroom gallery. And that way, all the edits that I made on this parakeets picture right now, for example, are already uploaded onto the cloud. So today, if I lose my hard drive, if I lose my laptop, if something terrible happens to my pictures, I will still be able to buy a new laptop, install Lightroom on it, enter, sign in with my account, and be able to find my pictures with all their edits exactly as they were on the Adobe Cloud. So that's about organizing your pictures on Lightroom and backing them up on the cloud. And here, what I'm going to do next is to export this picture for use on social media or the NatHab catalog or somewhere. And my typical export settings are here. I export in the JPEG format. You can choose JPEG between JPEG, TIFF, DNG, and original plus settings. TIFF is a great format for printing, but it gives you massive file sizes. So I don't do that. I'm not intending to print this picture right now. So I'll leave it at JPEG. I am choosing full size. I could choose small or enter a custom value, for the internet. And I have the choice of putting a watermark or not, and also choosing what data I want to export with the picture. So I'll choose copyright only. All the metadata is not necessary, especially for things like social media usage. And I'm going to name the file Alexandrine Parakeet, September 2023, and my name. You also have additional sharpening options as you export. You can choose between low sharpening, sharpening for screen, sharpening for matte paper, sharpening for glossy paper. I like sharpening for glossy paper because even if I'm just viewing the picture on a screen, it still looks much nicer with the glossy paper setting. I just like it personally. And you can choose between low, standard, and high sharpness. I choose standard. And this is very important. sRGB is the color space I export my pictures in, because that is the one that looks most compatible and most uniform across devices. So sRGB is what I shall choose. And there you go, export. I'll just export it onto my desktop, and there, exporting done. A lot of people also like to export their pictures onto hard drives and make extra copies of that. That to me is unnecessary. If I have everything backed up on Lightroom, I can go back into Lightroom and create as many copies as I want of my processed file. So that again is entirely a personal decision. If you are interested in seeing a before and after of this picture, I'll show you very quickly. This is what it looked originally, and after a few very quick edits, this is what it looks like now. So that was about organizing yourself on Lightroom. Now let's get back into the presentation. And for those of you who do not use cameras or like to shoot from your phones and don't bother with things like Lightroom, you needn't worry. You can still have your pictures automatically backed up on the cloud from your phone straight away. If you use iPhones, then you have iCloud, and you can set your phone to sync all your data, all your pictures to iCloud, and as soon as it connects to the internet, it'll just back up all your pictures onto the cloud. And similarly, with people who use Android phones, you have Google Photos, which is a great way to back up all your pictures from your phone to your Google Drive cloud. And that way, you can periodically delete the pictures and videos from your phone, because phones tend to get filled up with pictures and videos very, very quickly. So that was about cloud storage. Now, I'd like to just summarize best practices for wildlife photography workflow very quickly for you. Number one, back up your pictures safely and regularly, which is very important, and onto multiple devices, including the clouds up there. Have the original files sitting safely in multiple hard drives and the cloud as well. Automate your backup process so that as soon as you're connected to your internet, your computer automatically begins to back up your pictures to the cloud. Try not to run multiple backups together with several hard drives connected to your computer. Do it 2 at a time, because sometimes that can overpower the processor of your computer and interfere with the file copying process, and that could lead to corrupt files. Laptops are convenient. We can travel anywhere with them, and it's always convenient to have your main computer with you when you're traveling. But I would suggest invest in a desktop home editing studio and have that connected. With desktops, it's much easier to have a lot more space to store your pictures, and also you can connect your external hard drives, the ones that you archive your pictures in, connected permanently to it, and just makes things a lot safer and a lot easier. On your trips, do carry a laptop. I know a lot of people do not want to bother carrying a laptop. They carry their camera bags and multiple cards. But believe me, it's still advisable to carry a laptop, so that when you're back at camp in the evening enjoying a nice beer by the campfire, you can copy your pictures, empty your cards, have everything safely backed up. If you find time, you can even work on your pictures, and it's just so much nicer to look at your pictures on a larger screen. Do carry your laptops with you on trips. If your laptop is your main computer, if that is the device you use for all your editing and all your backing up even at home, then always remember to plug in the charger when you leave it up, because there's nothing worse than losing your pictures just because your laptop ran out of battery in the middle of the backup process. And when your external hard disk drives get old, 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever time you decide is old for your external hard disk drive, buy a new one, copy your old data onto that and duplicate that, because as these things age, they become more prone to malfunction. So keep that in mind. And as I use Adobe Cloud and keep your selects, your best of the best in there. You can organize your pictures in Lightroom by using keywords. You can rate them. You can have color codes. You can flag them. You can make albums. You can make folders. You can do all of that if that helps you make it easier for you to be able to access your pictures. And while in camp, when on expeditions, while traveling remotely, do keep in mind that Wi-Fi might be spotty to non-existent. Certainly not strong enough to recommend backing things up to the cloud using that or relying on it to back things up onto the cloud. So carry 2 solid-state drives, carry lots of memory cards, and as I said, try backing up straight from the camera by using both your camera's card slots, and take a laptop along. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Aditya, thank you so much. Before we start the Q&A, I'd like to remind everyone that they can submit their questions via the questions field in the control panel. Let's start off with this one. Are solid state drives waterproof or at least water resistant?
They're definitely more water resistant than your regular old-fashioned hard disk drives. And a lot of companies advertise solid state drives as being waterproof and weatherproof. I would really appreciate that in a hard drive, but I would never test it.
That sounds like good advice. How well does Lightroom work on JPEGs instead of RAW?
Well, Lightroom works very well, but the problem with JPEGs is that they have so little data in them that there's very little margin of data that you have to be able to get the best out of those pictures. With a JPEG picture, with the slightest adjustment to color or contrast or saturation or things like that, you end up either blowing up your highlights, which is losing detail in your bright areas, or losing out on your shadows, which is losing detail in the dark areas of the picture. So it's always advisable to work on to have a raw copy of your pictures to be able to really sit and work on it and get the very best out of it. If you shoot JPEG for the sake of convenience or whatever other reason, there are many simpler softwares that you can use to crop and do your basic edits. And I really wouldn't recommend more than your basic edits on JPEGs, because then that would just end up deteriorating the file.
Okay. And just to clarify, you shoot in RAW.
Mm-hmm.
That's your preference. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you clean out the Lightroom cloud?
Well, the number one, you don't fill it up by being very, very selective in the pictures that you choose to get onto Lightroom. And if and when eventually it does get filled up, you can always pay to buy more room. So I bought, my Lightroom plan gives me 1 terabyte of space. If that fills out, then I can upgrade to a higher plan that will give me probably 2 terabytes or 5 terabytes. So the best practice that I find is to be very, very crisp and clean in your editing, in culling and chopping the unwanted or the less than perfect pictures out, and just working on the best of the best.
Okay. After you have worked on a picture in Lightroom, is there any reason to keep the original picture as well as the edited picture?
Well, the original picture stays on a hard drive. It's archived. It's saved for the future, while a copy of that picture, a copy of the original file, stays with Lightroom with all the edits I've made on it. And a lot of times I might choose to go back to a picture and change the edits a bit, change that picture a bit. And then those latest edits remain on that file. So I find that more convenient. Um, and, I can access Lightroom wherever I am, whether it's on my laptop or on my phone. And I can, if I just have my phone with me somewhere and someone wants me to send them a picture, I can go into Lightroom on my phone, find the original raw file that I had uploaded on Lightroom and just share a copy of the latest edits on it as a JPEG.
Okay. Okay. What is the difference between backing up to Google Drive and Google Photos? Is there a difference?
No, there is a difference. Google Drive is a more general sort of cloud service that Google provides, um, where you can store all kinds of data. You can store uh, many kinds of files. You can store documents. You can store emails. You can, um, you know, do all of that. Google Photos uses space from your Google Drive, but Google Photos is an app that's on your phone, which looks into the, photographs and videos that exist on your phone. And as soon as you click a picture on your phone's camera, or if someone sends you a picture or a video on a text and you download it, Google Photos will automatically find it and upload it onto its own folder in your Google Drive. So in a way, they're different, but at the end of the day, your Google Photos is still using space from your Google Drive, folder.
Okay. Okay. What are some examples of desktop editing studios?
Well, when I say desktop editing studios, I mean a good desktop computer with a very nice monitor, which gives you great depth of color, with a good CPU that has decent processing power, and sitting at a desk with a large computer screen, and looking at your pictures on that and working on them on a large screen has its own joy and pleasure. And there are also many accessories that you can get to make your desktop computer a better photo editing studio. And there are any number of brands out there. The iMacs from Apple are excellent. There are equally good options of desktop computers that run Windows or Linux. But all of my computers use Apple.
Okay. And do you reformat your cards each day you're out, or how does this affect the file names? Do you repeat names, that kind of thing?
So after I have downloaded my pictures from the cards and double back them up on 2 different hard drives, I put the card back in the camera and format it. A lot of people choose not to do that, which is good, but they travel with a lot of extra memory cards. So what they do is they have 2 copies of the data on the hard drives and 1 copy on the card, and they use a fresh card every day, but that would be a lot of cards. I carry about 3 or 4 different cards on every trip. So what I do is after I download and back up, I format the card. When I format the card is going to form the camera is going to form another folder by the exact same name, which is in my case I shoot on Nikon cameras, and Nikon cameras have a folder called DCIN, which they form onto any card that they format. So what I have to do then is when I download the card onto my hard drive, I have to make a new folder saying day 2 or whatever, and copy the DCIM folder, the folder that's got the exact same name as 1,000 other folders on my hard drives. I have to copy that into the new folder that I made so that I know which day it is from.
Okay. All right, let's run through just a couple more. There's so many questions, and I know people really want to get your expertise. Can you review the photo processing steps again? White balance, vignette, etc.
Once again, sure. I'll go back into Lightroom, and here you go. I started with highlights. I first started by cropping the picture, getting the composition I like. Then I pulled down the highlights to bring out detail in these bright areas here. I did not pull up the shadows because I did not find it necessary. Also, because it's a noisy picture taken at high ISO and low light, I did not pull the shadows up because pulling up shadows will always add noise, while pulling down highlights will always take away noise and add detail. That's something that I've often explained on my post-processing webinars. After I pulled down the highlights and left the shadows untouched, I got out as much detail as I could from the white parts of my picture without, while keeping an eye on the histogram here. If I pull the white, so the whites are at 77 here, plus 77. If I pull them further, you see we start losing detail. So I will not go past 77, because past that I start losing detail in my white areas. And similarly, I pull down my blacks to the point where the blacks look deep and rich but don't lose detail. And then I added a little bit of contrast, again keeping an eye on the histogram and the warning triangles here, making sure I'm not losing detail at any point. I ignored the curves. I didn't find it necessary to use them on this picture. I left the white balance as shot by the camera because I find it looks perfectly okay to me. And I then added some vibrance and saturation. Then I added some vignetting to sort of bring attention onto my subject by darkening the corners of the picture a little bit, but at the same time making sure I'm not making it too obvious, because then it would look artificial and unpleasant. Then I added sharpening, brought down the sharpening radius to the minimum value possible, and I added a little bit of masking to you see, when you start sharpening a picture, it adds a lot of artifacts that do not look good on the picture, to that sort of add to the noise in the picture. So in order to counter that, you have to add masking. So that's what I did. I left the denoise bit because, as I was explaining then, it takes up a lot of processor speed and space. And usually when I hit the denoise button, I get up, make a cup of coffee, have it, and come back, and by then the picture is ready. So I'll not do that now. And I just chose these regular optical corrections that are available on Lightroom. There's one that removes chromatic aberration if there is any existing in the picture, and there is another that enables lens corrections. Lightroom has a database of all the major lenses that are out there in the market, and it knows exactly what degree of correction those lenses need in terms of distortion control and in terms of vignetting, and it just corrects them naturally. So that was a quick recap of all the edits that I made on the picture.
Thank you again, Aditya. It's so wonderful to learn from you about all of this, everything photography, but that was particularly a valuable, to me at least, a valuable presentation. I really took a lot away from that. Thank you. That is the last question we have time for today. So I'd like to hand it back to you for any closing comments.
Thank you, Sunny, and thank you to our wonderful audience. I really hope you found this webinar useful, and I hope it will make your life easier when dealing with terabytes and terabytes of files.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who tuned in today. Please join us again tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I'll conclude the webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.